All right, well, I've got 6, 7 cut out, and for the biggest part, I've got them nailed down to where they're coming out just pretty good and ready to go. The only thing is I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more of them to do. When I was doing one at a time, it took me about 35 minutes, and I'm changing bits about every 10 minutes or so. And so I thought, I'm going to turn my jig around. I'm going to cut 3 of these and jig it up to cut 3. And so I went in my tool path, set up my machine, and got all that set up ready to go. And I'm going to nail that down on the board, put a couple screws in it, and commence to making 3 at a time. So that's what I'm doing. Well, the first thing I do, I guess, is clean off that board so that I can nail that down on top of that board. So let me go over here to the fast cap, grab this thing, pull that over there, and grab my little dust collector there, put that in there, and give that a vacuuming. Alright, to line this up, I'll just basically get the corners lined up on both edges, shoot a couple pin nails. I'll go around here and put a few in there. I've got about 1.5 inch border between where it's going to cut out, and round on there is 1.5 inches, so I've got plenty of places to put pin nails, and then I'll get that done. Alright, I pre-drilled a hole here and a hole there. That locks it all down. The little nails on the back, they're just kind of tack it down. So now I'm going to put my 0 back over here, fill it to go home, and see what we get here. We'll line up the right there, which is my origin for this project. And we'll set my Z height, and there we go. So let's get her done. Alright, well, I was cutting out 3 of those. Should take 2 cuts. Last cut will pretty well release it at the last spot, and then it may pop up. Every now and then you have trouble with a bit coming loose on the small part. You can see it deflected. So I've got 1.5 inches between them. The centers have about 2 inches, so there's toggles on both sides. And going around there. So let's go over here and see what project that I worked on yesterday. This is my hydraulic table. And sometimes I want it high, and sometimes I want it low. It depends, so I don't have to stoop over. And you can see it goes up pretty high. See where we're up to here now. Okay, which is right at my belly button. So whenever you look at that, it's pretty well up there. And I don't end up working on it that high, but that's the height of that. And I'll use this here in a little while to put some cedar logs onto a resaw table. This is the project that I worked on yesterday. And you sit there and you get some old junk stuff, and that was all dented up, peeling. The laminations were coming off of it. A little piece of particle board, and I run 2 shafts like this, and then little pieces in between here. So I'm going to use the box joint jig and carved it all the way around it. So and then I come into the backside and screwed about a 2.5 inch screw in there. So anyway, I was having fun making these boxes, and these 3 tools. By the way, if you're looking for a sander, that's the Casimir. These are all ultralight, okay? And like, for example, this battery's, I needed to hit it. The only downside, because they're light, is the battery, and you'll have to change the battery out. But these last a long time. This sander, it'll go through a battery pretty quick. About every 2 projects or so, just depending, what it is. But the ease of use, this doesn't wear you out. It's light, and then of course the batteries are all interchangeable. I'm buying 2 packs of batteries for not a whole lot of money. But anyway, so that stores it in there, and I'm kind of liking that, to get my piece. Before I had them up there all on the table right here, and it's still not so far that I can't get right up to the table. I mean, right here. So works out pretty good, and that kind of thing. Let me go ahead and drop the table down a little bit. It's a little bit too high for me. About right in there is good. And so there we go. So let's go back over here to the CNC and see what we got going on. And looks like all 3 cut out. I'm going to lift this up. Now, what this is this little toggle right here. It goes up and locks in here. So let me pull this over here, and it just pivots up and opens that up. And then these little guys right here, I'll put them in my extra pile and get ready for that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll take my boards, I'll vacuum that out real quick, because any amount of up and down in there is, whenever you're doing 3D modeling, you don't want any of that. So I'll keep that pretty clean. So let me go ahead and vacuum that out real quick, and then I'm going to put my 3 boards in there. Some resource that I constantly find myself using, and that's a box of craft stick. It's $2.39. Get this from Hobby Lobby. It's a big box. I mean, I don't know how many's in there, but I mean, there's like 15 years I've been pulling these out of there, and absolutely great for making shims or whatever. On my puzzle boxes, I was using these to bring out my puzzles. Anyway, so I'm going to be adding some more into that, and I'm going to put them in there. These guys right here, I have a CNC jig that'll CNC out a bunch of them. So let me get 3 more or 6 more of them out. All right, sets of 3. I need 3 cams with 3 popsicle sticks, 3 cams, 3 popsicle sticks, 3 cams, 3 popsicle sticks. I need 4 washers to go around the corners, 4 washers to go around the corners, 4 washers to go around the corners. Some extra long screws in the event that these start getting a little bit watered out. I will use these for the biggest part on the first one, and everything's just a pre-drilled setup. All of my boards have been, run on the table saw. Just all it is just put a stop block on the rib fence and then just hit the edge of that. Generally, I want it a little off-centered so that I can do that. Also, if I have bigger boards, I just run it all the way down, do a rib cut, and put a deal all the way around them for the bigger boards, and that gives me a nice hold down for it. So let me get this jigged up, and we'll get it done. Another stuff, these are just a hair thinner, and these are Hobby Lobby deals, craft sticks, and I use some of them as well. All right, if possible, try and get you some more collets for your routers or your spindles. That way you can just check up your bits. I've had these for several years, and I just the other day, put them in some turpentine and cleaned all my bits, cleaned up the collets. Man, they worked like brand new ones. They were getting kind of gunkied up. And the stuff that came out of there, one of them, the bit was slipping in it, and there's some funk in there. And when I cleaned them all up with a turpentine and blew them out with a air hose, it just cleaned them up really great. So another tip is this little guy right here. It's on a lanyard that's got the cord's cut in half and it's held together with a thin piece of masking tape, so if it gets caught, it'll jerk and fall off. This is just an appliance remote for like Christmas lights. I got the little white appliance modules that plug into them, and I control all 3 of my dust collectors with it. That's the main one, and then this one is for the shop vac over there, and then this one's for the vacuum pump, which is right over there. And I don't use the vacuum pump very often, but it's over there. And so I've got these all jigged up. I'm getting ready to put the 1/4-inch bit in there. I didn't end up needing the cams in there. They were just tight enough where they weren't moving around with a fresh cut. And, but if you got a little variance, the cams, line them up just perfectly. And as you can see with that, now back here on the back side, I don't have enough brass washers to do them all. And I actually use the steel screws, so you know, taking chances, but they're so low profile because most of the work's going to be up here and on top, and even moving back and forth between them, there's just nothing there to get hung up. You got a big old hold on clamp right here. That thing will go crashing in there, and bam, bram, break. If you look around, all the guys is on the web, you look at all their hardware, and it's all cut up, and you know, bam, this is brand new. Now I have that stuff. I've got all that stuff right down in there, and I've got different kind of hold down methods that I've tried. But you just can't beat the brass fender washers, brass screws. Now when I'm doing jig and I'm 99.9% confident that they won't go anywhere, I can use just regular fender washers and regular screws, and you know, I know that it's not going to do anything. So, but every now and then you get a snafu, something will hang, the bit will go get hung on something or get up in there, and then it'll go crashing down through there. And so these right here, you know, $12 for these washers, $6-7 for, you know, a deal of screws. I need to get another set of brass, and you know, I've got the regular screws of all sizes, but that makes all the difference when it goes to hitting that. So if this bit hits this, it'll chew that up and it won't break the bit for the biggest part. And that's especially true on the 1/8 inch bits. So, you know, I've been through half a dozen 1/8 inch bits over 4 years, and at least that, and they generally will break, and I do a lot of work with them. So, but anyway, the popsicle sticks in there work fine for just the spacing them out. They're all coming in there the same way, and let's get this thing done. All right. My Z is over here on the corner. That's the corner, the origin of my material. And I went ahead and Z'd off the top of the material. Everything will go off the top of the material. Even when I'm done, I'll have corners of these right here that I can, you know, re-Z off of and get my height. My board's basically flat. It's 3/4 inch nylon bolted to this, 3/4 inch particle board on top of the MDF. They're glued. I tried this one time with contact cement and it gave up, but this is animal glue. That thing doesn't give up. That thing's solid as a rock. This piece here is my piece of MDF or plywood. That is my cut board. It gets all cut into pieces, and these are my jig boards. And I have all kinds of different jig boards, and I hang them over in the corner with a plastic tie and just let them dangle, and then I'll mark them, you know, like that over there. That's a single-sided. This is for a 3-sided. And then I mark the edges of it and the size of the boards when they get ready to go, which is already marked over there. So this is the 3-sided. I need to mark it with a pin. All right, this one's cutting out the pocket, and I've got the speed set down at 70% right here. It gets to screaming at me a little bit if I let it run full percentage. So I got it down a little bit. It doesn't make near as much racket. The other one I'm trying to push a little bit fast. So those settings will all be depending on everybody's system of that. But before, I would only run this on one board, and after it got done, then, you know, I would change the bolts, change the bits out, re-zero and going through this way. So this is going to save me quite a bit of time, making 3 at a time versus 1 at a time. So I made the 1 at a time, several versions of it, and got it fine-tuned. And then after I got to about the 3rd one, maybe 4th one, they were all coming out the same, and they were coming out just fine. And so from that template, then I copied and pasted all my vectors to make 3 of them. And just reused the toolpath, just real quickly clicked on them and the vectors and got them all cutting. So there we go. Sometimes when these things are cutting, I try and get another project going on in the shop. Yesterday, of course, I was making that thing over there. This last week and a half, I made this surfacer board that slips inside the wall. This works good. These cleats just go on each side of the table, the in-feed side and the out-feed side. You just crank that up, slip it through there, and then crank it back down. It does change your your measurements by 3/4 of an inch. So, or this may be 5/8. But anyway, so your thickness is changed just a little bit. But man, this board, you know, there's stuff falling off the end of it. There's some room on the end of it, so you don't have to be so fast. And also, there's no snipe. So sometimes you get a little bit of snipe, and that helps that out a bunch. So that works out good. Let's see. I was on this Grizzly. This works fine for small bits, 3/4 of an inch and down, 1 inch down. It works fine. You put a big old bit in there, 2-inch bit, Forstner, and that motor has real struggle trying to keep up with it. So, you know, if I had to do it all over again, I would have bought a bigger motor. And this is actually something I could easily change out and put on there. I generally don't change the speed. I could have changed the speed down, but I'd have to pull that little guy there off of there to change the speed, which I generally don't. This guy here, don't really use it too much. I thought it'd be really handy, but with this lock right here, this thing here, I can adjust it and do the stops and set it. Every now and then this is nice and handy, and you know, it gives you the readout as far as, you know, that goes. But as you can see, the battery seems to be out of that, so that's how that stuff kind of goes for me. Buy those batteries in bulk though from Amazon, so you can always have one. And just a few tune-ups. The spiral head, this modified spiral head, works real good. I can't oversell the crosscut sled. I didn't use them for years and years, and then I finally made one, and now I'm a believer. So out in the driveway is about 30 logs, cedar logs, and I'm going to turn this into a resaw area right down through here. Push all this to the side, get the bigger bandsaw out, put a table on each side and get it out and get it ready to go. And resaw all these lumbers. It's on a winch, so it'll go to town. Let's check over here on this thing. Seems to be doing just fine. And this is the only one that I really need to slow down. That's this one here. So decarb software is the way to go. I need to go dump my or have a campfire and burn up my scrap that's overflowing. I really like this Cobalt Quiet Tech compressor. I can spray finish with it, and it works great for that. And I really like the M12 line of the Milwaukee. Their tools are light. They're solid as a rock, but they're light, and that works out good. Finishing, I need to make a few more of these right there. All those are just a board with screws in them, and I need to make about 3 or 4 more of those and put screws in between them. Because every now and then I get something that doesn't like the pattern. So I figured if I put another screw in there, then that gives me a good pattern. But anyway, just excellent for finishing. It doesn't leave any blemishes in the finish. It works out good. And so that goes. So. Now, most of my projects I have enough clamps, you know, that I can get by with. Use a ton of the spring clamps, but I'm starting making 12 of one thing, and then I get to using. I get all my clamps out, and about everyone then up there, I have some more next size up of these types that are longer than that are up there in that old suitcase. So air scrubber works out good. I just changed that filter and blowed it out. It's just a cheapo 20 by 20 $20 fan, and you know, I just made a joint box and put a slide in the middle of it, and then the filter slides in and out for easy changing. I can also take the fan out if I need to, and just, you know, so that works out good. And I mounted it to the garage door bracket, you know, long bolt all on. So that's working good. Shop lights are up by one with some Lowe's. They're just the LEDs, and they're a string of like 6. They're kind of like a construction right, and they stay in parallel. And at the end of it, it has a switch on the end of it, and so my fans come on when I turn on those lights. And so that works out good, and that's all on a power strip. All the power for the shop is coming from over there, and that one outlet up there, and that kind of thing. I do use the hose reels, you know, the electric. They're handy. That's a 12 gauge there. This is a lighter duty one. This is like a 14 gauge cord. And then I have propane heat. Kind of chilly this morning. And that's on a power, so turn that off when I go to fire it up. I just hit the power switch, hold that down for a couple seconds, and then it lights up. And that'll last me for, you know, no more than I'm out here, a couple weeks. It just knocks the chill off. And then I have, of course, the heater up there in the ceiling, electric. And, you know, that stuff's all expensive. That's on the 220 breaker. It's on the thermostat. So it's really cold, and I'll sometimes put that one on. So those are a few of those shop updates. And so there we go. Go over here and check this out and see how we're doing. Alright. The shop vac is this DeWalt Quiet Tech. I'm going to turn it on. You can barely heard it to come on. It's amazing. I would actually consider putting one of them underneath my CNC table because there's just hardly no racket to them. Let me turn it off. And like I said, everybody that hears this thing, they shake their head and they come over to just to check and see if it's on. That thing will suck the brass. I mean, it'll just flat get to going. So on the main dust collector, I've got it's a Delta 1-horse, you know, just like a single machine 4-inch. It's ducted down to the top of that dust deputy, it's a 4-inch dust deputy, and then a 15-gallon fiber barrel. And of course, this goes over into the back of the shop. That keeps the fine dust out of it. Also use that on the bottom port of my table saw. And then on the back port of the joiner, there's also a 4-inch steel. So, and then I have, these are all 2-inch. I do have a 4-inch port there, 2-inch. This one works off of that dumpster and shoots shavings into that dumpster. It doesn't need an impeller. And then this one uses 2-inch. If I was to buy another one of these, I probably would have went with a little bit bigger one with a little more horsepower. This thing here will stall out on you if you're using it and trying to sand a wide board. Smaller boards, it does okay, but it was kicking out. So I took out the limit switch for this, and I thought, well, if I'm going to lose anything, then I'll lose that. I think it was actually the limit switch for the motor because it was all kicking off and on. So, but this works good for the intended purposes of cleaning up just a 64th of an inch off the top of stuff. It's not a thickness sander. So, I'd like to put a helical head in that DeWalt, but you know, still haven't done that. And of course, I have the 17-inch bandsaw on the other side of the shop. 90% of the time, this is the one I use. I really use that other one mainly for resawing. So anyway, that's the shop with the CNC going to town. And a lot of fun out here in this old shop. All right, that did just fine. It took it right at 12.5 minutes to do that. On the old setting, it was at 4 minutes each. So yeah, that saved about 15 minutes right there off of cutting those by changing the bit out. Like that. Let me put the ball nose in there and get it to going here. Okay, ball nose is laid up. We're getting ready to run it. And I'll just Z'd it off the top of that corner again. And because when it gets done, this will all be carved down into the center will be carved down. So that works fine there. And let's get it going and see what kind of time we got saved for doing that. Well, I fat fingered that one. And it started the V-bit cutting on there. I thought, wait a second, that ain't right. So anyway, Wrong bit, wrong operation. So anyway, let's get that going. So that's going to go around and do its thing. And I've got it going on 100%. Well, it's a little, real close to being 3/4 full. And off the top of that, so there you go there. Let me go dump that. And generally, you don't want things to get full up because they'll start sucking sawdust up into this thing. So, you know, anyway, so there it is there. So let me go dump that and clean it up. Nice thing about a CNC machine, you can take, while it's doing its thing and you're getting credit for it, you can come over to your shop and fix things that you've been wanting to fix, you just haven't done it. These are my glue boards, or not glue boards, or well, sometimes they use more glue, but basically these are my finish boards. And what I do is I set them up on a table outside, put them all around the perimeter of the table, put my projects up. Generally I coat the bottom first, and then I'll turn it over, and then this generally will sit on the bottom, but these don't really make an impact on the finish. At least that I can't tell. And I made 3 extra ones of these and then put screws in the middle between where they were at. And so that's enough to go all the way around my table. And I think, and leave me room to where I can walk all the way around and do, you know, a dozen, you know, little projects going around there. So that works out good. See how they did a job on carving those. Again, I'm working on 3 at a time. So this is the first time I've run this tool path. So well, there we go. There's that. I'm getting ready to engrave. So everything looks pretty good there. Let me put in my engraving bit and set it off. The time on that one was 55.16 minutes. And the other operation, her one was almost 20 minutes. So I shaved off 6 minutes of shaving time besides 3 changes. So that saved me about 10-12 minutes right there on that one. So I'm going to write that down as basically 55 minutes right here and put that on the sheet. Alright. Watching my bit, see where I'm at on my bit. That's pretty good. That ball nose jam down on there was kind of a funky deal. Anyway, it's going to go down there and do this little jumping. It seems like it's jumping up quite a bit for when it's moving. Probably I could fix that. That's a waste of time. But it's going around and it's trying to clear that piece of wood that it's thinking about. So you might have to look at that. Okay, a little craft paper with a little bit of blue tape on the table. And it's one of these little plastic cables that you get from Walmart or Menards. I mean, they are light and they're easy to go. So basically I'm going to take these guys that are now up on the rack and put them around the table, and you'll see what I'm using them for. Right, well, that CNC machine's in there de-grooving those things. I'm going to be getting ready to stain. I got some of my materials out, and I'll mix them up and get them ready to go. This is basically the finish that I'm going to put over it. I thin this with a little bit of lacquer, thin it about 15%. This is clear brushing lacquer. It's clear brushing lacquer, and I thin it about 50%, which makes it almost to the point of this. No sanding between coats, what it says. That's pretty much really true. This is the clear satin. I'm starting to like this. Now on cedar plastic I want a gloss, but on the rest of the woods not so much. And then this is the golden oak stain that I'll put on that oak, make it really pretty. This is for cleaning, for flushing, for getting finish out of different things, putting it in the spray gun, and so is that. I got this little Mixmaster injector. It doesn't have the rubber thing that gets locked up. I tried a couple syringes, it didn't work. These are a measuring cup and a paint can opener, And then this is just a little gun from Harbor Freight that'll shoot. It's a little touch-up spray gun, and this works with my little bitty compressor. Of course, that thing gave up the ghost not too long, so it's cheap stuff. But instead of investing 180 bucks or something, 15, 20 bucks, and I'll use it and see how it goes. So that's working good. I'll basically thin that and put that in there and then hook it up and go over and spray it. Right now I'm getting ready to brush on some finish for some Christmas presents. And that is my ensemble of good stuff. And then over here on the there's my boards that I was using for earlier. These will hold these up and gently keep them up off of the table for so that the finish doesn't stick. And I'll go around them and hit them, get the bottom and the top edges with a coat. This has already got some finish on it, so this wood that I've reclaimed, and so it already has a coat, but this will allow me to get the bottom edge and get them finished. And I'll put a coat or two on that and go around it. The machine's getting ready to cut out 3 more of these. I'm in the last phases of the carve on these things right here, and all I got to do is take these over to the bandsaw, lightly cut them, sand them, and then I'll run them over this little ball right here to give them that brush look. Takes the little edges off of them, kind of cleans them up where they're good to go. And then over here, it's about done with the first carving. 13 minutes on that. And previously, on the carve of the cutting out the letters with a 1/16 was 7 minutes. So I've got that to tweak. And I think it's probably my going up and down if it's causing that to do that. I need to go in there and clean that up on the tool path. I had just kind of changed that tool path to where I put a start position and had to go down to a fixed point so I didn't have to touch off and to get that right. And that's probably added this in there to where I need to go in there and do that. So I'll get that done, and after this next pass, and then I'll have it dialed in. For these things, it's always, it's always dialing something in and getting it to fit. So there you go. So that's what's going on now. Okay, video on that for the V-carve with the Texas 50 minutes. So I lost time on that because of the amount of time it had to go up and down. So there you go. Okay, we're going to check up the 1/8 inch bit. It's zeroed in. This will be the one that cuts it all out. Get it ready to take it to the bandsaw. So let's go ahead and let that rip. While it's doing this, I'm going to go drain the water heater. Okay, 4 minutes and 11 seconds. They're cut out, ready to go. Let's have a look at them. All right, that one V-bit and carving that took 32 minutes, down from 55 minutes. So but the only problem is, on its way across, it took a little whack out of the top of the wasteboard, which is not a problem. It's just that it did. If it was, it took a little bit of a notch out of it. So it didn't hurt anything. It just, that's what it did. So 18 minutes difference between the two. So that's a lot better to zero off of this instead of zeroing off of this and put the pocket in there. The pocket caused the up and downs to be almost twice as long. So anyway, that's what the last cutout, and that was pretty fast. So that's the way to get her done. All right, put a little bit of golden oak around those things if they were sanded with the ball off the drill press. I just wiped them down with that t-shirt rag, let it sit on there for about 5 minutes or so, and come back with the two cloths, went back over and wiped them off. And some of the stain will get down in the letters and make them a little bit darker colored, and so that'll help out there. And there we go. I got one of them just a hair thin, but it's not too bad for making that mini and 3D modeling. I've got my last 3 being cut out in the CNC, and probably about 45 minutes we'll have all of the machining done, and they'll all get stained here in about an hour, and then go on to finishing it. All right, I set my Z on the top of my work surface. I didn't use the 3/8 down like I did in the last one because it took me an hour to mill it. This one I just reset it off that so the clearance won't be go up and down just 1/4 of an inch like the other one. Now when it goes across here, it's going to cut a groove in here while it goes over to those others. So, but that doesn't hurt that 1/4 inch V-bit. So we're going to let this thing rip and see what happens. And when I set it up, I generally watch the first letters as they're carved. Sometimes I got to nudge it down a thousandth or 2 down. I get it to where it's carving right, and this one looks like that right. So we'll call it good. As you can see, the up and down movement is down to the 1/4 inch, whereas it was doing like almost 3/4 of an inch. Well, the 1/4 plus 3/8, which was the pocket allowance for the start depth on that V-bit. I'm not sure if I can go back in the settings of the tool and adjust it that one time when it creates that. That might need to be a setting that V-Card needs to add. I put that into their feature request on the website. Say, hey, let's establish a little bit different deal for that one. When you're making these, it's a fine line between perfect, just a hair too thin, a hair too deep, a hair too deep, getting in there to being about a perfect depth, another perfect depth, another perfect depth, starting to get a hair too deep. Pretty good. This one here is just a hair too thin. And you get up here in these tops and you'll see the variance of them. And it's kind of funny whenever you're making these things. I mean, we're talking a hair, and to get it just right. So it would be cool if I could set that to where I don't have to fight that, but so far I haven't been able to resolve that. And all right, so I'm going to put that for a feature request in V-Carve under the V-bit, is to have it not use that. So when we use the pocket allowance, or if you click on the start at depth, it allows you to set a safe height. And keeping that in mind, you can hit tools if you're doing 3 of them at a time, which I showed you that those ones that were going across. So that's why I use the washers and the screws. All right, we're getting closer to being done. Well, this is where I make all my command decisions in here on woodworking. I generally make, that was in the last batch of 12. I've got 4 over there and 4 there, 1 in the truck, and 3 given out. So I've got to get those out here not too long. I've got people's faces in mind for those. And of course, we're making stuff up. Every now and then I just have to clean house. Spent a lifetime doing Roll Ranger ministry, and sold out for it. Enjoy doing it. And I've been at it almost 30 years. There was my second Ranger outpost. I was the leader of it, and that was a flagship outpost. That was my leaders, and every Wednesday night, 63 guys, 65 guys in Class B khaki uniform. So those are some pretty phenomenal days. And my woodworking goes into different stuff. Those are all cut on the CNC, but on a scroll saw. That was 3D printed on the 3D printer. This little guy right here, and this does a good job. They got them now that go 10 times as fast as this, but this still is good. That's all my mementos from years and years of doing Ranger stuff, and I kind of enjoy that. These are a puzzle box that works on centrifugal force. These are the ones that I'm making out here. They're made out of oak. This one's out of walnut. It had that little spot here, which kind of distracts from it. Then all my guys are going to FCF. I'll cut them one of these. It's a little round dish with a lid, and that was just that oak thing right there. That's one of my first projects out of high school. Well, while I was still in high school, I made that at home. And there's Wilson, of course, with the handprint. Marshall made that for me. Old train my grandpa had. Damon gave me this little backpack guy, and lots of fun there. Lots of mementos. Dave Perkins has cut out, as you can see, a lot of these metal things around that Dave Perkins has cut out. He's done the signs for the campground. Loads of powwow stuff, names and placards and stuff, and that kind of thing. Rob made me 3 or 4 posters of all the pictures we've done for the last 30 years, going out on all the trails. So, just countless lives changed in that, countless devotions, things like that. Work, AT&T's given me quite a few little accolades, made lanterns, cedar fireboxes. This is a Fred Deaver print. It's given to me by Tom Rutherford, and he went through a time and he gave me that as cleaning this stuff out. And then there I am at one of my favorite shots. Ray Reese is in charge of that event, and that's where I'm watching 32 people get water baptized down at Stockton Lake. And there's our campfire service, and that was an awesome time. One of the most mighty moves of the Holy Spirit I've ever experienced as far as baptism and salvation experiences. And then there I am there on all those that Rob's taking pictures out. So just countless lives changed. And my office is a mess, but that's how she goes. I 3D print all kinds of stuff. Security system cameras and stuff going on, lanterns, little wooden crosses. We made 300 some odd crosses out of some old walnut. And generally I use the coals. I try to use the coals out for these kind of things. This is a cup off of, I found at a store, and it had a little split in it, so I called him Chip. And that set up my mom's house for many years, and some different things. So, I get a few accolades from time to time, and this is from 2002, where I was, 9 years of service in 2002. So, and here it is 2024, so I'm still hard at it. Really enjoy it, and, all behind the ministry of Royal Rangers. Just really enjoy mentoring future men, reach, teach, keep, all folks for Christ. And we made canteens, 26 or 7 of these, and they came out really nice. I made some extra ones, and we burn all the boys' logos and stuff in on them. So, kind of cool stuff. Enjoy it, and let me get off here. Okay, last operation for this set, and I'll get them out and sand it and clean it up. As you can see, this is all of the sawdust generated by just milling these 3 emblems out of this oak. And there's lots of carving going on, and I'll hit that with a shop vac. But for the biggest part, it stays pretty clean in here. Now, I generally will clean up a little bit as I go, and this is getting to where it's piling up on the sides, and I'm getting a little shake it down on the ground. I don't know if you can make that out or not, but generally it's cleaner than that. And I just use the old shop vac and fire it up and clean it up. In a couple minutes, it's all clean, ready to go. I do want to advise you, don't vacuum this thing. If you do, it'll put a static charge and blow that. I was in the communications industry for 42 years, so I know what electricity does. Static electricity is a card killer. We used to have to be grounded whenever we had a wrist strap that we were supposed to use when we were wearing cards. But I kind of learned that if you're not shuffling your feet and you touch something and ground out to the chassis, it's a ground. This is wood, of course, it didn't work. But if you ground out to that dissipates any static that you have. And then this thing here is actually grounded to the motor and to the frame in that box there. So, but anyway, if you're running the the shop vac, which has particles on it, it automatically creates static electricity. So the shop vac is the worst thing you can do is run over this stuff or anything electronic, really. So, because it is creating static electricity. These long runs, in my other shop, they had long runs, and man, they would zap you. So I ran a copper wire down through there just to keep it from going on. But they say you have to have hundreds of feet of it to get it to where it gets where it could be a fire problem. But anyway, but I don't like the shocks either. So let's get this cleaned up and get her done. And of course, whenever you do these jobs, you want to record where your datum was. Like on this one, it's right on the corner. Some jobs, my datum's in the center of the workpiece. Like this one over here, it's over on the center. So I make a note of the datum's over in the center. So that you can just rejig, put the thing anywhere on the table. I mean, I could actually move this all over, inch and a half that way, inch and a half that way, still hit my datum, and everything's going to work out fine. What's cool about jigs like this is they're real easy to remember where you're at and what you're doing with them. So let's get this pulled up and clean this up. Alright, this is the back machine. I'll just clean off a little bit of that up in there, pick up some of that. I've already gotten some of that off from the front. This is generally back here in the back. I don't clean this every time, maybe once every few days I come back here and clean this up, because most of it ends up on the side rails. And anyway, so there we go. Okay, she's cleaned up, ready to go again. I'm getting ready to close that part down, go back out to finishing. Threw my vacuum hose down on the ground, and that could go out another 10, 12 feet. So you can actually vacuum part of the back of the truck up if you bring it a little closer to the garage. But this thing here, all you do is just wheel it in. That thing comes flying through there, and it's done. That's your DeWalt. You need to get one of those. Anyway, so we're done that. Hit the remote, turn it off, and that is about the end of the milling process. Let me go ahead and close that thing down and turn it off and sand these last three. Cut them out, sand these last three, and we'll get to finishing them. Okay, first coats, throw it on them. Generally I put them upside down when I'm putting my cone on my first coat, but since these are a 3D deal, they're probably going to be just fine. And I'm going to turn them over, do the other sides of them here in about 3 or 4 minutes. Give them the old pancake flip, and then I'll run them over again. There's my table for my spray gun. Nice little notch, just roll it out here and get it up to the height you need it at. I've got my spray mask on right here, and these are just a Harbor Freight, $25 if you catch them on sale, $30 if you don't. And it's a good one. You can't smell the finish in it, and it does good for dust and spray adhesives or sprays. And there we go. So we'll let that cook for a minute, and then we'll turn them over and hit the other side. All right, I traded to that one from a little bit bigger compressor down to a smaller one. This is a Cobalt 2-gallon, 125 psi. It only do about 1.7 cubic feet per minute at 90 psi. However, it runs that gun, and that gun is the equivalency of a spray gun. And most of my finishing, I'm using a rattle can. So, this is convenient. I just get the stuff out of the can and mix it 15%, thin it with that, and then I've got the consistency of this. And it's a lacquer, and it's no sanding between coats. It's does a nice job. I use the satin finish, and as you can see, no real buildup on the grain. Just puts a nice little finish on it. Getting ready to turn them over here in just a little bit and hit the top part of them. So they're coming out good. But Harbor Freight and Cobalt's got this one knocked out of the park. The other compressor I had was so darn loud, if you fired it up, it'd scare you. Well, this thing here, you can't even hardly hear it running. So it's kind of like my shop vac over there, just really quiet.